Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. I just realized today, because I saved these talks, I think this is the 60th day I've been doing this. How about that? I'm not burnt out yet. So, we've been looking into first grammar and the first and third person of grammar, if you remember your grammar classes, and the I and the first person and the he, she, or it of the third person. And we've been looking into this as trying to get a different angle or lever to understand who I am and the great questions of life. Where is God? Who am I? Is there such a thing as satisfaction? Or is life permanently anxious? So I'm just trying to use the grammar as a metaphor for getting a different way of looking at an old question. And so yesterday we were talking about first person as the ghost in the machine. We live in a culture, the Western civilization, that is primarily an it culture since the Enlightenment. The scientific method is an objective view of the world in which everything is material. And a material is an object, you can see it, and it's basically it. Everything is some it. And an it is a noun, and it has a definition. So everything is named. As soon as something new happens, something new is discovered, we turn it into an it, we name it, and put it in the dictionary. Everything is known. And we cannot stand to have anything unknown. If there is something that cannot be known, remember the Space Odyssey, 2001? The obelisk that arrived for the apes and for the astronauts was an unknown. It had no reference to anything in their reality. So they couldn't name it, because the known always comes from memory. The known is the storehouse of our names. And once we name something, we know it and we can control it. It fits us into place. And so when the it rises, the subject, the knower rises too, but the knower is never an it. So it's kind of like the knower is if I say it's raining, the first person is there, but we just ignore it. We don't need to say it. What I'm really saying is, I know it's raining, or I know that sofa. But I don't need to say I know, because we just assume the knower is there. But you can never turn around and see the knower. So the first person is always missing. And that is where we live. That is the person that I'm looking for in the world of it's me. So let's take a look at the next step of this. And I'm going to bring up, I'm going to pull out my big guns here. Can you see, I hope I can't see this in the camera, so I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is a Gestalt picture of an old woman and a young woman. Can you see the old woman and the young woman? I'll put it over here. And you'll notice that, well, I'm assuming that you can see it. If you can't, the young woman, here's her eyelash. She's looking in this direction. This is her left cheek. This is her left ear. The old woman is looking in this direction, and this is her left eye, and this is her nose, and this is her mouth. So you can see the young woman and the old woman. And this is a famous Gestalt picture, and I love it because it really explains ambiguity and the basic ambiguity of human consciousness. And this ambiguity, the way we're looking at it here, is the ambiguity between the knower, first person, and the known. And these two make up the whole mind, but they're split into two incompatible halves or views. The first person view and the third person view. The one viewing and the thing being viewed. And so we flip back and forth between these two very naturally. We don't even notice it. We're constantly oscillating back and forth between what? Me and you. And so we don't really even notice that. However, when we get into a double bind, which is a stress situation, when any negativity rises or any stress, it's a sign that the ambiguity of the first and the third person is rising to the surface. And we oscillate between the two. We can't settle on one or the other. And this is true with this picture. If you notice in this picture, if you see the old woman and the young woman, if you focus your attention on the old woman, the young woman presses forward. And then if you try to hold your attention on the young woman, the old woman comes forth. So you can't hold your attention on one or the other. There is going to be an oscillation between the two. And we see this all the time in the little puzzles on Facebook and on YouTube and the internet. You know, there are all kinds of optical perception puzzles which deal with this basic ambiguity. But what we're looking at today is that normally there is no stress between the first and the third person because we just unconsciously shift back and forth, one or the other. Once I'm thinking about I'm the I, and then the next thing. A good example is looking in the mirror. So you look in the mirror and you sense that you are timeless. The first person knows. The first person as the knower senses this timeless awareness that never changes. But then when you look at the image in the mirror and you see the wrinkles, you say, oh my God, I'm getting old. There's your, so the known is me as an it, and I'm getting old, I'm going to die. And the first person is this sense that I'm timeless. There's a sense of immortality. There's a sense of transcending the it, the knower before the known. So I know prior to what I know. A Zen koan expressing this would say, the Zen master would say, who were you before your parents were born? Well, your parents are the known, the its. Who are you before the it? Who are you before Adam? See, Adam names everything as an it. But who are you before the name? Who is the knower? Who is the first person? Who am I, you see? And this person, the knower, is basically, in our culture, asleep in the known. So all we do is we try to know everything. And we can't rest with just the knower. So let's bring us back to this basic, when the basic ambiguity between these two come to the surface, it's a double bind that we experience all the time. I know I experience it when I go to Walmart with the shopping list and I've got something on the list and I come up and there's an ambiguity. Should I pick this one or that one, or what? They're both the same. The cereal, whatever, the flour, there's this flour and this, and I can't choose, and so there is a wah, 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 wah. Well, I can't choose because they're both both equal. They both have value. So I'm stuck. So what happens when that happens? I can't choose, and an oscillation happens. Wah, 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 you see. And so I call up help. What do I choose? Or I ask tech support or something, you see, because I got to get out of this. Wah, 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 wah. Remember, this is the microphone up against the amplifier. It's the oscillating that can't choose. You can't choose the old woman or the young woman because they're both of equal value. They're both part of the one. Two halves, two sides of the coin, same coin, you see. If I say, choose the whole coin, but you can only see one half of the other, you say, well, I can't choose both at the same. All I can say, I can choose heads or I can choose tails. But I can't choose the whole, but I must choose the whole. There must be one. There can't be two. There must be one, yet there's two. So when this ambiguity rises to the surface, we experience stress, confusion, uncertainty, because we've lost the known. The known now is two knowns. There's A and there's B. But logic says A can't be A and B at the same time. So there's a wah, you see. So this stress is best pictured by the snake eating itself. So when we get in this oscillation, which we call stress or confusion or doubt or the fog or uncertainty, the anxiety of uncertainty, the loss of center, when we lose our center, we feel like we're falling. And remember the movie Vertigo? We talked about that. This vertigo is a sense of losing your stability. Like in an earthquake, everything is moving. So there's this sense of losing my center. That's the vortex when we get the ambiguity of the first and the third person. And so we need to get stabilized. Normally, we're stabilized by the ego. In Western society, with the rise since the Enlightenment, with the rise of the scientific method, where the whole world became we began to, humanity began to stabilize itself with the ego, to stabilize the ambiguity of all the data, just all these it's running around. What integrates it all? What stabilizes me as a consciousness in this field of data? The ego does. So the ego is kind of like a modern, 400 or 500 years, but it's a Western invention of this sense of self that stabilizes the data of the coming in the senses of these it's, you see. But when the ego is threatened, when ambiguity or uncertainty, see, the ego has to be certain. We all know this on Facebook. Everybody is certain about their opinion. That's the ego bases, its foundation is certainty. I have the righteousness. My belief is the correct belief. My philosophy, my opinion is certain. And so I stabilize myself on that. So we're constantly fighting because other people say, well, my belief is the certain one. So we got two certain beliefs trying to be the one, you see. Wah, 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 wah. So everything everything can be reduced to this oscillation between the old and the young woman of consciousness. And when this ambiguity rises up, our ego feels threatened and it pulls up its defense mechanisms and it marches out to its army, you see. And then we go to war to hold the center, hold the flag, hold the center of opinion. But it can't always hold. So when it starts to crack, you see, we get the Ouroboros of the snake eating its tail, consciousness eating itself, trying to stabilize itself, and it can't stabilize itself because the two halves of halves of consciousness are both equal. And when they're both equal, it's like two tomcats. They can't eliminate the other one. So there's a fury of going around and around, trying to stabilize the self by eating the other half, getting rid of the other half. This, you see, when the one is split through ambiguity, each half tries to restore the center by eliminating the other half. look at our politics. There is one America, right? And all of the speeches, and Obama and Trump and everybody's saying, I want to restore America, one America, but it's split into left and right. So there's a left America and a right America. And they both have value. Each one wants to be the one by eliminating the other. Wah, 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 wah. So we're going around and around, and this is what's making America neurotic. We can't become one America by eliminating the other half of America. That's the civil war of the mind. So we'll end here today. We'll pick it up tomorrow, but I want you to get a sense then that this basic ambiguity is the fundamental structure of our own mind, and the ambiguity and conflicts and civil wars in the external world are a reflection of the ambiguity and civil war in our own consciousness. Human consciousness has a fundamental ambiguity in it between the first and the second person. And this is the curse and the blessing of humanity, because there's only, when the vortex starts, there's only two ways out of it, and we have to get out of it. One way is violence, destroy the other side, and the other way is transcendence. That's the creative path. But, and here's where we'll pick up tomorrow. We'll look at, it's called the Transcendental Way, and it is not a new view, but a leap to a higher sense of self that includes both the first and the third person. So we'll pick this up tomorrow. Okay, well that's it. We'll pick up tomorrow, and I'll see you this evening at Martini time.